Maybe you've dialed into your nutrition, training, and sleep, but you're still not getting the results you want. It could be that one thing in particular is holding you back and you don't even know it. In today's episode, we are uncovering how a simple tweak can revolutionize your metabolic health, hormones, fat loss, workouts, and sleep to push you past those plateaus. Stick around to learn what it is and what you can do about it. Welcome to the Wits and Weights podcast. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and this twice-a-week podcast is dedicated to helping you achieve physical self-mastery by getting stronger, optimizing your nutrition, and upgrading your body composition. We'll uncover science-backed strategies for movement, metabolism, muscle, and mindset with a skeptical eye on the fitness industry so you can look and feel your absolute best. Let's dive right in. Wits and Weights community, welcome to another solo episode of the Wits and Weights podcast. In our last episode, which was last year, episode 133, Making Fitness Fun Again Through Adventure with Kelly Howard, we talked about how the spirit of adventure can revitalize your fitness journey. You learned how to overcome common hurdles to staying consistent with your fitness goals, external versus internal motivation, and how to embrace a sense of fun and adventure to reignite your passion for fitness. Today, for episode 134, the first of 2024, a simple tweak to increase your metabolism, hormones, fat loss, workouts, and sleep. Yes, everything. We are talking about stress, especially stress's impact on your health and fitness goals, and how to reduce or cope with it effectively. We give lots of attention to nutrition, training, and even sleep, but sometimes stress is the hidden barrier. It's just lurking there in your life, and it's the hidden barrier to unlocking a higher metabolism, easier fat loss, increased energy, and better health. Today, we're going to dive into practical, evidence-based strategies to identify and mitigate stress in the context of both physical and mental health. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Sam Miller of the Sam Miller Science podcast, who recently did a very detailed multi-episode series on stress that inspired this episode. And I also want to give a shout out to many of my clients and members of the Wits and Weights Facebook community who contributed ideas for how to manage stress that we are going to include in this episode. So many creative ideas, including one of my own that I just discovered today that would be helpful that I will be sharing. And those are later on in the episode. Now, as you're listening to the show, don't stress. And by the way, listen to the show at 1x. Don't go faster. I know many of us, myself included, listen to it faster. Calm it down. Listen to it at 1x. And now you see what I just did there, right? I'm trying to help you reduce your stress, even as you listen to this podcast. But don't stress, because I created a free stress solution guide to go along with this episode. And of course, you can download that at witsandweights.com/free or click the link in my show notes. Again, that's witsandweights.com/free, or just click the link under episode resources in the show notes. Now, before we dive in to this episode about stress, I wanted to share a few recent 5-star reviews from Apple Podcasts. If you want your review featured on the show, it's very simple. Just screenshot it and tag me at Wits and Weights, and I will make sure absolutely to give you a shout out in this part of the show. All right, the first review is from Emotionally Healthy Legacy. Elizabeth says, helpful resource for someone who wants to lose weight the healthy way and sustain it. This is a great resource for both men and women. The host really seems to know what he's talking about. Very knowledgeable. I'm glad I gave you that impression, Elizabeth. I do try. And that is really the goal of this show, is sustainability. So, and for men and women. So I'm glad you liked it. The next review is by Carelitz. Down to earth, knowledgeable. Being new to weightlifting, I found this podcast to be straightforward, practical, and super informative. The community is also fantastic, uplifting, and positive folks. Philip is very responsive to questions and offers tons of tips for both beginners and more experienced weightlifters. This has become my go-to podcast for all things fitness. You don't know what that means to me. It really genuinely, when I hear something like that, I'm still shocked, a little bit of imposter syndrome, I'll admit, that someone would make this like their main fitness podcast, but that is where I'm trying to go with this. And also the fact that our community is uplifting and positive. If you join the Wits and Weights Facebook community, that is exactly how it is. We will kick you out if you're a meanie. But if you're helping people out and you're positive, you get to hang around like-minded folks that are trying to do the same. And then the last review is by Mavi D, I think is how you pronounce it. Love the research and science. As a guy looking to bulk, getting scientifically backed workout content is big. Love the carbs episode. Might explain a thing or two. Wink face emoji. Was recommended through a website, but I'll be sticking around. Thank you so much. I always love, again, to hear someone who discovers a podcast, find it valuable, and wants to stick around. And of course, anybody listening, if you want to leave a review, just go to Apple Podcasts, and it's pretty easy to do. Take a screenshot and tag me. And definitely share this episode with a friend if you found it valuable. All right, we're going to get into today's topic, a simple tweak to increase your metabolism, hormones, fat loss, workouts, and sleep. Now, we're talking about stress. The simple tweak is stress. Now, I know it doesn't sound simple to all of us. Some of us have extremely full, busy, hectic, crazy lives, however you want to describe it. And I realized as I'm recording this episode, I was walking the dogs, I was taking them for a walk. It's the very last day of the week before Christmas, and I thought this week was going to be less stressful than others. Now, my tolerance for stress is fairly high. Wherever that comes from, I don't know. I've had this sense my whole life that no matter how bad things get, they're going to get better, and somehow that grounds me. And I'm grateful to have that inherent in me or trained in me or from my parents or whomever. But I can see the contrast between people and the amount of stress that they perceive. Now, we're going to talk about what stress is, how it impacts us, and then how to manage it. But I just wanted to connect with you as a listener personally that everyone's level of stress is different. Some people have way more stress, anxiety than others, either naturally or because of their circumstances. It really helps, of course, like in my case, my wife, she gets really stressed out by certain things that I don't, and vice versa. So for example, if I had to just all of a sudden do all the chores around the house right now, that would raise my blood pressure. Like I would get stressed about it. My wife loves doing that stuff, which kind of works out, right? She stays at home and it works out for me. I do the financials and the business and a whole bunch of other things. And we have a shared kind of partnership, but that would stress me out. If her mouse stops clicking on her computer and doing what she wants, she'll freak out, right? And she knows this is the case if she's listening to this. She'll come to me and be very frustrated, express her frustration. Like, why is this happening now? I can't deal with this. Can you fix it? And it becomes this huge thing. But I understand that about her, right? And so I understand I want to be calm and go over there and, all right, sweetie, let me fix it. Let me see what's going on. And I kind of keep her out of it. I fix it, hopefully. And then, she's back in the picture and we're good to go. So everybody's stressed by different things. I realized this week that I had cleared my calendar a little bit, not as much as I wanted, but I cleared it a bit so that I could get caught up on podcasts and some stuff for my business, take care of some fun, creative ideas I had. But you know what always happens with me is as soon as I leave a gap in my schedule, even if I tell myself, even if I put in my calendar and set myself a reminder that this is going to be downtime, I'm going to chill out on the couch and watch Netflix. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to just veg out and do something fun. You know what happens? I fill in that time. I just do. I get a crazy idea as I'm walking around the house and I say, oh, I got to do something about that. Forget the hour of downtime. I've got an hour now. Why don't I use it up? And so the week ends up being fuller than I expected. And so I know for a fact that this contributes to a higher level of chronic stress in my life than I would have otherwise. Now, whether I can handle it, cope with it, whether or not it's affecting my health in a big way, that's hard to tell. That's part of what we're going to get into today of how can you even tell and what can you do about it. But I want you to know that we all face stress, okay? And don't assume the person next to you because they have, more kids and more obligations or they're single and have no obligations that they have more or less stress. Just know that it's all relative to you and your personal experience, and that as we age, the stress tends to rise simply because our circumstances get more complicated, right? We have children or we have more financial obligations. We have bigger bills. We're getting closer to retirement and getting worried that, we're not going to have enough money saved. People in our family, pass away, they die. Our pets die. Like all these things happen more and more as we get older, and we take on more things and we are maybe wiser, but busier, right? And all that adds up. So I feel you, right? If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'm just so overwhelmed. I've got my business, my work, my kids. I'm working 14-hour days. That might be where you're at, and it is where you're at right now, and that's okay. The question is, how much is that contributing to other things where just a little tweak here or there could unlock a more positive road to better health? And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to discuss the interconnected physiology, right? How your body responds, the hormones and such, and the psychology, so the mental side of stress, including how it impacts your brain, your immune system, your hormones, your sleep, your diet, your exercise performance, and more, right? Without hopefully stressing you out. All right, the goal of today's episode is to give you actionable advice toward the end based on all that information, get you nice and educated to better navigate stressful periods and transformational and transitional periods. Because oftentimes the stress comes from change. It comes from things that aren't expected. And it could come tomorrow. You could get in an accident. There can be a medical condition, whatever. We know these things happen, and I'm not trying to stress you out mentioning them. But knowing that they happen, how do we build the resilience for that? Okay, so let's define the difference between acute and chronic stress. Acute is the here and now. It's short-lived and oftentimes can be a positive, adaptive, or helpful form of stress. My favorite one of those is the acute stress of exercise, of training. When you lift heavy weights for an hour in the gym, you are stressing the heck out of your body, but in an acute way. And we see this physiologically. We see an increase in blood pressure, for example. If you took my blood pressure right in the middle of a weight training session, it's going to look like I have terrible health, right? It's going to be through the roof, but that's okay. That's actually part of the process. And as soon as you're done with your workout session, everything starts to get back to normal and the acute stress goes away. And we know that the acute stress like that can actually build resilience against chronic stress. So what is chronic stress? Chronic stress is that prolonged, frequent, difficult to control stress. And that's the important phrase here. Difficult to control stress. Things like your work, financial stress, issues in your relationship, juggling all the demands of home life, including children, right? The list goes on. And they're difficult to control because, like the Stoics say, there are things in your life you can and can't control. And the chronic stress often comes from the things put upon us. Okay, not always, right? There are definitely choices we make to be in the environments and situations we're in and around the people we are. But I'm not asking you today from one podcast episode to just eliminate all those things. We're going to acknowledge them and realize that they exist. And many of them are right at this moment out of our control. It's okay. All right. Now, there are a few things, key things, three, in fact, that I'm going to mention, that make some types of stress even more detrimental. Okay. The first is novelty. If something happens that we have no previous experience with and we don't know how to handle, that creates more stress than a situation we've seen before, right? There are situations that happen to me that I've experienced before, maybe financial situations, for example, that I would be able to handle because I've done it before. Whereas somebody else, it's their first time, maybe they're 25 and all of a sudden they get hit with some big bill or something. And it's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do, right? That's going to create a lot more stress for them than the one for me. So again, it's relative to your experience. Number two is unpredictability. And that's when things are unexpected or inconsistent. So there's some overlap with novelty here, right? But these are stressors that maybe they're going to happen. You just don't know when. Like they're going to come up and they're just random. And then the third dimension is lack of control or lack of agency. And this is all those, I mentioned this already, the external stressors that we feel powerless to influence or powerless to change. We don't have control. They happen, and now we have a situation that we want to do something about or make a choice in the context of, but we can't change the stressor. So chronic stress becomes problematic to your physiology when it's constant, unrelenting, feels impossible to manage or to relieve, right? And then it's ramped up and exacerbated by inconsistency, unexpectedness, and novelty. So you take all that together, and I'm sure you can identify some things in your life that fit the bill. So now the question is, what does this do to you? And I know a lot of this is going to be quote unquote negative, might stress you out just hearing what stress does to you. But awareness is the first step, right? Awareness of these things, I hope, reduces stress in a way because then you'll know where you can focus your energy and then mitigate these issues. So the first is sleep. Stress and sleep are intricately tied. I think we know that, right? Cortisol, which we all often call the stress hormone, and there are other stress hormones, can impair your ability to sleep. I mean, this is just thinking about your stressful things in your life can cause you to have insomnia or can cause you to disrupt your sleep or wake you up in the middle of the night thinking about it. Raise your hand if this hasn't happened to you many times. Okay. Happens to me a lot. When things are exceptionally stressful, I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and all I can do is find a piece of paper to write it all down so I can get back to sleep. So the sleep quality and your recovery and recharging from your sleep is affected by stress. And now you feel wired, but exhausted, right? You get these restless nights, night after night. If you're wearing something like an Oura ring, it's going to show you very little deep sleep. And yet you might be in bed for 8 hours, but just not getting the sleep. And I put this in the top because I've said before how like just being sleep deprived alone can massively reduce your metabolism, can increase your fat storage in the abdomen, can increase your hunger, all those things. But oftentimes stress is the cause of the poor sleep. And any amount of sleep hygiene or sleep hacks aren't going to fix the sleep until you fix the stress. So if we can recognize that in ourselves, that sleep may not be the root cause, but stress might be, that can be helpful. All right. Second is the effect that stress has on your nutrition, on your dietary choices, because chronic stress, like lack of sleep, drives cravings for high energy foods, high sugar, high fat, comfort foods as well, because there's an emotional component to it. And it also depletes nutrients in your body. Like it can actually reduce your absorption of nutrients to an extent, like where your gut kind of malfunctions and your body becomes less efficient with handling, processing B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, those kinds of things. So whatever your intake you have from your nutrients, the effectiveness of them goes down. And then between both the cravings and the nutrient depletion, now your dietary quality suffers. And that can lead to other impacts on many other things, okay? Then we have gut health, all right? Chronic stress can inhibit stomach acid production, and that is probably tied to the absorption issue I just talked about, all right? B12, iron, even protein, okay? Protein absorption. It disrupts the microbiome, right? Healthy gut microbiome, and we're just discovering now how important that is to your health overall as well. It could affect your digestion too. Stress affects your training and gym performance, right? This is huge. So when we talk about recovery, we talk about sleep, stress, food. Well, if the stress is high, it's hard to get those extra reps in the gym. It's hard to feel energized. You may not be processing carbs and protein as efficiently. You're nutrient depleted. The list goes on, right? And then you have this elevated cortisol, which guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Elevated cortisol is catabolic over the long term, meaning it breaks down tissue. It probably has to do with your body trying to marshal resources to get close to homeostasis because you're in this high stress state. And so it impairs muscle building or it causes muscle tissue breakdown, all right? The last effect of stress I wanted to talk about is your body composition overall. Okay, the increase in cortisol also induces further insulin resistance, and this contributes toward, fat gain, of course. As much as we talk about having high enough carbs and lifting, helping all of this, the stress is counteracting that, right? Cortisol signals the body to store more fat, especially the harmful visceral fat. So if these aren't all reasons to improve your stress, I don't know what is. So now let's talk about the physiology of the stress response, just to get a little bit sciencey, but not go as deep as like Sam did on his multi-part series. So this is the fight or flight that you've heard about many times, the sympathetic versus parasympathetic. So the sympathetic response, right? When the brain perceives a threat, it signals the hypothalamus to activate the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are what pump out stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. By the way, cool little side story. Adrenaline and epinephrine are the same thing, and they both mean above the kidney, adrenal, epinephrine, Latin, Greek. If you found that interesting, share this podcast. Okay. So the adrenal pumps out those hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Cortisol then affects everything, your whole body's physiology, immune health, metabolism, etc. Right? And here's another interesting thing. Your brain structure changes with chronic stress. the amygdala enlarges, and that actually increases the fear and stress response. The amygdala is like the primal part of your brain that responds to the fight or flight. So you're effectively training your amygdala to be bigger and stronger, which is not what you want. And then the opposite happens with the hippocampus. The hippocampus is responsible for memories and regulating your mood. Guess what happens to it? It can atrophy. So holy crap, like I just learned this going through this research. I hadn't explored this specific phenomenon, but you're effectively strength training parts of your brain with your stress in the wrong direction when you have too much stress. A bigger amygdala, a smaller hippocampus. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool. I'm fascinated by this stuff. I nerd out on it, but it's also scary in a way, isn't it? It creates this vicious cycle of greater reactivity, like you react more easily, and then you perpetuate the chemical response that's going on. So it's this vicious cycle. And you probably know what I'm talking about. As soon as you get wired and stressful and you're in a chronically stressed state, it just goes on and on and on. Even if you have a day or two of like being able to relax and do stuff for yourself, it's a temporary Band-Aid and everything just ramps right back up. So what do we do about it? All right. I'm going to throw a lot at you today. I realize that, but I like to be complete and give you a lot of options. And so before I even go through my whole list here, my main action for you today, and I'm going to reiterate this later in the podcast. My main action that I ask you to do is pick one thing. Pick one thing that's easy and simple, okay? If I'm telling you that having more sex will reduce your stress and you don't have a sexual partner, that's probably not the one you're going to go after. And maybe you're laughing right now, and that's the point. I wanted to give you a little chuckle. But if there's something on this list that is far from what you can do right now, don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. Pick one thing that's easy that you can give yourself a reminder to do tomorrow. Okay? This is the new year. I don't think I mentioned that. This is the first full episode of the new year. So happy new year. And I'm thinking that we're all stressful this time of year. We're past the kind of emotional high of the holidays. And now we're looking out the long path of our year. Pick something that's easy to do. Hey, this is Philip, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Wits and Weights. I started Wits and Weights to help people who want to build muscle, lose fat, and actually look like they lift. I've noticed that when people improve their strength and physique, they not only look and feel better, they transform other areas of their life, their health, their mental resilience, and their confidence in everything they do. And since you're listening to this podcast, I assume you want the same things, the same success, whether you recently started lifting or you've been at this for a while and want to optimize and reach a new level of success. Either way, my one-on-one coaching focused on engineering your physique and body composition is for you. If you want expert guidance and want to get results faster, easier, and with fewer frustrations along the way to actually look like you lift, go to witsandweights.com and click on coaching, or use the link in my show notes to apply today. I'll ask you a few short questions to decide if we're a good fit, and if we are, we'll get you started this week. Now, back to the show. Okay, so what are the options? First, we have lifestyle changes and techniques. So these are all, you can call them stress hacks, but these are all the very important things that I would recommend to a client, and usually would be more personalized to their life. But I want you to think about your life and which one of these makes sense. So first, we have anything that is creative or expressive. Okay, this is like a form of self-therapy. If you like art, if you like to paint or draw, or do Legos or some sort of craft. If you like to play music, like I play saxophone, I don't do it as much as I would like. So that could be on my list. And my kids both play clarinet and flute, so I can play with them, and they play piano as well, right? Singing music, listening to me. Not really the listening. This is more about expressing yourself, okay? Writing, creative writing. If you like to write stories or poems, this is not to be confused with like work writing emails and social posts that you just don't like to do. This is a more enjoyable form of writing. Maybe you want to use a quill. Maybe you want to do calligraphy, right? Maybe you want to write thank you notes to people. Dancing is another one. And dancing could be everything from just jumping around with your wife or husband at home to me, not jumping around, but I mean dancing to music, or dancing with your kids, or just dancing on your own, right? Or going out and dancing somewhere. I'm sure you can come up with other ideas, but different ways to express yourself. And by the way, after I give you this list, I'm going to share specific examples from the community and from my clients that might spark some inspiration. The next one is social connection, not just once in a blue moon, but regular social connection. And this does include sex and intimacy with your spouse or partner, okay, in a real meaningful way, right? We're not talking about random sex and one night stands. We're talking about meaningful connections here. But also connections with your friends. Like if you have 1 or 2 or 3 close friends that you can meet with on a regular basis and you find that a refreshing thing to do, whether it's go out for a drink, hang out at their house, go do an activity together. This could also be groups and communities you connect with online or through texting or through WhatsApp or Telegram. There's so many ways, right? Find a group. There are many groups, support groups out there if you need them. All right. The third thing, spending time in nature or outdoors. This could be going for a walk in the woods, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, getting your steps in, so to speak, but doing it because it's outside. You get your vitamin D, your sunshine, the birds chirping. There's something visceral about our connection as humans with nature. And some of you in the community have posted how you live, at the ocean, near rivers, near the woods, even in the city. There's so many beautiful places and interesting places you can spend time in nature or outdoors. The next one is an interesting one. A lot of people resonate with this, especially in my community. Planning and organizing. So planning your day, your meals, your schedule, your vacation coming up, your week, it requires a little bit of intense activity and concentration. Maybe gets you into a flow state. But for that half hour of work, so to speak, that probably feels pretty productive and feels good to you, not really stressful, so to speak. The reward is then your whole, future for that thing is planned out. And now you don't have to make decisions in the future. And that takes away fatigue and stress. Organizing is the same way. Some people really want to organize, whether it's their house, cleaning, doing the chores, mowing the lawn, organizing your thoughts on a whiteboard, organizing things on a Post-it note, whatever. Organizing means a lot of things. The next thing is all the stuff related to what we talk about on this show. So training, optimizing your nutrition, optimizing your sleep. So I think sleep and stress can kind of play off each other. So if you feel that your sleep can easily be improved, not easily, but that improving your sleep can reduce your stress, and that's the main thing causing the stress, because you just feel like you lack energy and everything else just builds up, and all you need is an extra hour of sleep or a little bit better quality sleep. Of course, I'm going to encourage you to try to do that. Find a way to do that. And then see if it doesn't also reduce your stress. So it can go both ways. And then, of course, training and nutrition, I guess I'll just be explicit about that. If you're doing too much exercise, that could be stressful. But also if you're sedentary and you're not training at all, adding in resistance training in particular, but also walking, are absolutely going to contribute positively to reducing stress. The resistance training does it in many ways. One way is the acute stressor of the activity itself, which builds this physiological and, as you realized, brain-based physical resilience to stress that carries you into the rest of your day and the rest of your week. But walking and endorphins from even other forms of cardio have been shown to reduce stress. Nutrition is just eating enough food. Like if you're dieting, that's going to increase stress just by definition. So one way to reduce stress if you're in a calorie reduced state is to not be in that state, is to eat at least at maintenance or above. We went through this at the end of the year in our body recomp challenge, where a lot of people, we said together, we're not going to diet. We're not going to try to be in a surplus or be in a deficit. We're just going to stay where we are, but we're going to build good habits and eat enough food through the holidays and enjoy ourselves. And so many people did that and said, wow, that was revelatory. That was life-changing in a way, because I realized I can eat more without gaining weight, and the eating more reduced my stress, helped me sleep better, gave me more energy, helped me perform better in the gym. You see how this is all connected. It's all connected. So optimizing your nutrition is eating enough. It's also eating enough of the right macronutrients and micronutrients to support your health. So that's, sufficient protein and carbs especially. A lot of you listening, if you're low carb or keto and you have a lot of stress, bumping up your carbs can help, possibly. I've seen it time and again happen. I talked about this on the More Carbs, More Muscle episode. because of the hormonal response to additional carbs. So they're all things that need to be looked at. Okay. So that's a pretty good list of the big ones of how to reduce stress. Actually, I have more. I'm categorizing these in different ways. So I'm going to talk about supplements, and I'm going to talk about more advanced stress management skills specifically. I'll get to that in a second. One thing I mentioned is part of exercise could be really any movement that relaxes you. So that could include, of course, yoga. It could include stretching. Like all of that's in there. Okay. Now, from our Wits and Weights community and from our clients, many of my clients contributed some ideas, as well as those in the Facebook community, which is totally free. You can join in the link in the show notes, as always. And I'm going to shout them out by name. I think they wouldn't mind because they posted right in the community. I'll just give their first name. Jacides. Her idea, she had two that I wanted to share. Photography. That's a form of art, of creative expression. She also likes walks on the beach. Again, getting out in nature. And the beach in particular, there's supposedly science, not supposedly, but there's science that shows like the ionized water coming off of the ocean, coming off of waterfalls, has some positive interaction with our physiology. I don't know the details, I'm sorry, but look it up. It's pretty cool stuff that we are really attracted to walking near bodies of water, being near bodies of water for our stress. Okay, Eric said he likes to relax. Okay, I love that, just saying relax, because relax, I didn't even mention it, could just be vegging out, just chilling, reading a book, right? Watching TV, playing a video game. If I can play a violent video game and it will relax me, which sounds crazy, right? But it's something that I really look forward to. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. It doesn't take a lot of thought. And as a result, I get relaxed, regardless of it, whether the content seems quote unquote stressful, because I know it's fake and that's just me. Okay. Anyway, relax. And then listen to podcasts. Listen to podcasts is a great way to reduce stress if it helps you relax, for example, or if it's entertaining. But also even if it's helping you with your personal growth and it solves some sort of problem for you as you're listening, and maybe it inspires you to write down an action that you're going to take, and then that gives you confidence and certainty as to your next step. Leanne says reprioritizing tasks. I love this one. This is related to the organization and planning, but this is saying, let me look at all the things on my to-do list and reprioritize them, which could include eliminating them, but it also is putting the most important and urgent ones at the top, right? Maybe getting some out of the way right now, getting them done, maybe delegating them. So that could definitely reduce stress. Shannon said, I love this quote, lift heavy, heavier, and heaviest. I had to include in there, I just love the quote, the idea of lifting heavy reduces stress. I can attest to that. And pretty much everybody I know who lifts heavy states that that's the case. There's absolutely no negatives that I can think of to lifting heavy with good form, So there you go. Chrissy says yoga and cleaning. So yoga specifically, a lot of people love to do yoga as a form of movement and mindfulness. And then cleaning, this goes under the category of, I guess, organizing maybe and being in control, right? And being proud and happy about your space around you. Very important, right? A lot of people get stressed just seeing a bunch of clutter lying around. Brienne said transcendental meditation. Now, she mentioned a specific book in the group. I didn't write it down for the notes. So go into the Wits and Weights Facebook community and you'll see a post that I did about what's your favorite way to reduce stress. And she mentioned it in there. But again, if you can't find it, reach out. We'll point it out to you. But that's a very specific skill called transcendental meditation. Josh said organize, prioritize, execute. So I like how he included all of those, which go under the planning and organization. And it kind of combines with what Leanne said about reprioritizing tasks. So organize your tasks, prioritize them, and then execute them. And that's actually an important one too. Like just getting stuff done can reduce stress. And one of my quick wits was about procrastination. And for many of you, you may be stressed because you're procrastinating. And so if you can use one of those tools to reduce your to-do list, that could reduce stress. All right. Tony mentioned one that I really liked here. Reminding himself of the big picture. Yeah. How often do we get in the weeds and we get stressed because we think there are a million things we have to do. And when you take a step back, you realize, you know what? It's not that bad. Like All of these are nice, but there's this one thing that's really superseding all of it. Actually, it's what Carl Berryman would call your big lifts, right? The metaphorical big lifts in your life. So yeah. Carol said, ask for help. Yes. I didn't really have that up in the top. Well, I had social connection, but asking for help specifically from that group to reduce your stress. So not just waiting to kind of get together in a normal, relaxed situation, but when you're stressed right now and somebody can give you that help, reach out and be specific and say, hey, I'm in a tough spot right now. Could you help me with this thing? And be specific and ask for help. And then she also said venting to someone who will listen. So again, that's related to social connection. If you have someone who you tend to help each other out, again, what Carl calls give a spot, get a spot, right? They're probably one of the easiest people to talk to and share with what's actually going on and vent. And they'll be accepting of that, right? And be able to take on not even take the burden. To you, it's a burden that you're releasing. To the other person, it's probably a privilege that they can release the burden from you, and they're not really taking on a burden by doing that. In fact, they probably feel more fulfilled. At least that's how I feel about it when I'm helping someone who wants to vent and they're doing it in a genuine way and looking for support. And then the one I have that I just came up with on my way to recording this podcast was, don't always listen to your podcast on high speed. Like I said 2x, I never listen to them that fast, but sometimes I'll listen to them at 1.25 or 1.5 just to speed them up a bit. I think it's okay to do that sometimes, like if the information is kind of superficial enough that you don't have to hear every word and you're just trying to get the general content in. Maybe I'm making an excuse and rationalizing. But if you do it all the time, I feel like it's going to hype you up, kind of wire you up, and get you anxious. I've done that, and then I go to have a conversation and I feel like it's slow. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like it's a time dilation, kind of gravity well phenomenon happening there. So anything that wires you up that can be slowed down is possibly a way to reduce stress. Okay. So that was a whole bunch of things that you can try. There are supplements as well that can aid with stress and cortisol in particular, such as the adaptogens or nootropics. Now, the big one that you hear about a lot is ashwagandha, and I will swear by this for a lot of people. But again, I'm not, as a nutrition coach, I can't prescribe anything. These are herbal supplements. I'm not recommending them specifically to anyone. I'm just putting them out there if you want to experiment with yourself. Ashwagandha, rhodiola rosea, Panax ginseng, there's others. And for a lot of people, this fills a gap or addresses a deficiency that is related to stress, and then it reduces their stress. I'm not going to go into the mechanism behind them because I don't want to spend too much time talking about supplements when there are a lot of natural lifestyle changes that can be made first. But the other thing that comes to mind, we talked about nutrition and micronutrients. I think if you have a deficiency, that can be easily checked, usually with blood work, like magnesium, or if you're vegan and you want to take B complex vitamins, B12, that alone could be also causing stress if you don't have enough of a certain mineral or vitamin. And then we have what I'm going to call stress management skills. And I left these for the end as a separate section because I think they're more advanced. And sometimes, tell me if I'm not wrong in your head here, because this is a one-way conversation. Sometimes I don't know if you do, I get stressed out thinking about stress management, like thinking about, okay, now I need to do mindfulness. I need to do meditation and breath work and all the things I'm going to mention here. That's actually 3 of the 6 things I'm going to mention. But I don't want you to feel stressed that you have to go do some advanced skill, some guided thing, something you have to learn over days or weeks. And even though these are helpful and a lot of people swear by them, I'd rather you take the simple, easy step first and then put this on your okay, that's my next level list. And these are mindfulness. And that means a lot of things. For a lot of people, this simply means being in the moment and being present, right? Alan Friedman in our group did a mindfulness session recently. It was alternate nostril breathing, which is a form of breath work that's available in the community. And I think I put out an episode on that recently over the holidays. So check that out if you want to be guided through it in an easy way. But there are also apps, like the Aura Ring has an app. There's Breathe and Breath and so many apps that have mindfulness, meditation, and breathwork type activities. And they just have a calming voice. that walks you through for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, some exercise to help you get in the moment and reduce your stress. So I'm not against any of those. I just want you to be aware there are a lot of other things you can do as well. So we have mindfulness, we have meditation, we have breath work. And breath work could be as simple as belly breathing, or the 4-second or the box breathing technique, or the alternate nostril breathing. We also have cognitive reappraisal, which is a fancy way of saying reframing. So this one I actually like a lot, but it's not like something you just do necessarily so much as it's a principle and a way of thinking when you say or write something about yourself of reframing the situation from a negative to a positive. And I use this with clients all the time. Like this is almost every week with every client. There's something that they might say that can be reframed to put into a positive light. And that can reduce stress because now it takes you from thinking you're a failure, stress, to, I just learned something and now I can make a choice to do something different. Control, less stress. A few other things are guided imagery. I mean, I could add a whole bunch of things to this list, but the last one I want to add, and this is something you can do right now if you have someone in the vicinity, is hug someone. Can you hug someone right now? And you know what? If you can't hug someone in the vicinity, or it would be weird because you're in the grocery store and there's strangers, hug yourself. Like hug yourself and just love yourself right now. I'm serious. Hug someone or hug yourself. That's what I'm talking about with connection and how that can reduce stress. And some of us are isolated. We're working from home. We are rarely out and about and seeing people. Hopefully we're doing it more now with the world a little bit more opened up again. But some of us are oftentimes in a very isolated environment for long stretches. And if you can connect with someone in any way whatsoever, do it. I hope that this episode has connected with you in some way as well. I hope my calm, soothing voice has helped. I'm just kidding. And I think that covers stress. I could just go on and on and on, but this episode, I want to keep it less than an hour. So what I'm going to say here is that stress itself can be a big, overwhelming, stressful topic. So again, if there's one takeaway from this episode, it's this. Identify one lifestyle change or stress management technique that we just mentioned in the show that sounds fun and easy for you to implement, and then reserve time in your schedule this week for that activity. You can use the timestamps in the show notes to go back to the last section where I explained all of those, right? Go back to the timestamps. Don't stress. It's easy to go find it. Use the timestamp and just pick one. All right, last thing. Just as a reminder, I created a free stress solution guide to go along with this episode. It's basically very detailed outline that mirrors the content of this show pretty exactly. I mean, I basically took my notes and I turned it into a guide for you. And you can download that at witsandweights.com/free or click the link in my show notes. Again, that's witsandweights.com/free or click the link under the episode resources in the show notes. Okay. In our next episode, 135, The Truth About Testosterone for Women's Health with Karen Martell. One of our most popular guests, Karen Martell of the Hormone Solution podcast, is back. And she is uncovering the truth about testosterone for women. You'll learn the role of testosterone in women's health and vitality, who might benefit from testosterone therapy, common questions related to the benefits, safety, and dosage of TRT, and where all this is headed into the future. As always, stay strong, don't stress, and I'll talk to you next time here on the Wits and Weights podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wits and Weights. If you found value in today's episode and know someone else who's looking to level up their wits or weights, please take a moment to share this episode with them. And make sure to hit the follow button in your podcast platform right now to catch the next episode. Until then, stay strong. Hey, before you go, I want to let you know about a free resource I have. They are free guides on everything from fat loss to eating out to building muscle to managing hunger to figuring out the best macros for you and more being added all the time. You want to get the most out of these podcasts and your time to look and feel your best, and these free guides will give you a quick and easy way to know what to do. If you want to get your hands on these completely free guides, you can head over to witsandweights.com/free. That's witsandweights.com/free to get your free guides and level up your results today.